Welcome, I'm Ollie and I'm a speech and language therapist at the Seashell Trust. I'm going to talk to you today about supporting safe eating and drinking. You'll learn to spot the signs that someone is struggling with their eating and drinking. For people with learning disabilities, they're often at much higher risk of having difficulties with their eating and drinking. So it's really important that we all learn to spot the signs and look out for any difficulties they might be having. There are 3 different types of changes that you might see if someone's having difficulties with eating and drinking. These are changes in behaviour, changes in appearance, and reactions to the food or drink. We'll also have a look at longer term consequences of having difficulties with eating and drinking as well. So the first type of changes that you might see in someone who's having difficulties with eating and drinking is changes in behaviour. So you might see changes in the speed that they eat their meals. This can be that they take a really long time to eat meals, maybe even up to an hour, and that's probably because they're having difficulties chewing and managing the food in their mouth, but also maybe swallowing the food as well. And it might be that you see them swallowing lots and lots of times for each mouthful, and that will mean that they take much longer to eat their meal. For us, we tend to just swallow once for each mouthful. You might also see that they're eating very fast, or filling their mouth very full. And this can happen because someone's worried that food might get taken away, or that they want to go out and do something else. But for people who are doing this all the time, there's a really high risk of them choking. So this is something that we want to look out for. You might also find that people start refusing food and drink, and this can be because it's maybe hurting them a bit, or just because they're finding it really difficult to eat and drink. And again, if someone's refusing or not enjoying their meals, then this is something that's worth mentioning to your speech and language therapist. The second group of changes that you might see if someone's having difficulties with eating and drinking are to do with changes in their appearance. And these are things that you'll see in your child or young person whilst they're eating or drinking their meal. So you might see that their eyes start watering if food's going down the wrong way. And obviously you can have lots of different reasons why your eyes might start watering. If they've got hay fever or conjunctivitis and you know that's the reason, then don't worry about it. But if it's only watering at meal times and you don't know why, then it might be that they're having difficulties with their eating and drinking. People also often have changes in their face colour. So it might be that it goes very red because they're struggling with the food, or they might also go very pale if they're very short of breath. People often have an increased rate of breathing when they're struggling with eating and drinking, and this is because when we swallow, we stop breathing for a very short moment while our vocal folds come together. If somebody is struggling with eating and drinking, they might find it really difficult to coordinate that stopping breathing and then swallowing as well, and they might just get really out of breath. Wet voice is another thing that we look out for. So this is when water comes onto the vocal cords, when drink goes down the wrong way. It might be that the person's voice sounds really gurgly and wet, and you can sort of hear that liquid on the vocal folds. Pain is the last sign that you need to look out for, and this can be really difficult with our students with learning disabilities because they might find it really difficult to tell us when they're in pain. So we need to look out for other signs. We can look out for their facial expression. It might be that they're grimacing or frowning. You might see a change in mood more generally as well, and you might find that they're not wanting to eat and drink as much. So the last set of signs that we need to look out for are reactions to food and drink. So for some people, if they're struggling with food and drink, they might start coughing. Obviously, we cough for lots of different reasons, and if you know that your child or young person has a cough or a chest infection or a cold, and they're coughing all the time, then don't worry too much about it. But if they're only coughing at meal times, then it might be a sign that they're struggling with food or drink. If someone's having difficulties with eating and drinking, they might also be at risk of choking. This is when food goes into the airway and blocks the airway, so it's difficult to breathe. The person might change colour, and they might also be kind of reaching out and not able to speak and trying to tell you that something's wrong. You might need to support them with back slaps if this happens, but if you think your child is at risk of choking, then make sure that you do some first aid training so that you're able to support if this does happen. So it's really important that we learn to spot these signs of difficulties with eating and drinking, because there are long-term consequences and signs to look out for if difficulties with eating and drinking carry on. These include losing lots of weight, and this might happen particularly if somebody's not really wanting to eat and drink because they're finding it difficult, or if it's taking them a really, really long time to eat a meal. And if somebody's losing a lot of weight, they may be at risk of malnutrition, or if they're finding it difficult to drink, they might be at risk of dehydration. When someone is having difficulty with eating and drinking, sometimes food can go down the wrong way, and it might end up going down onto the lungs. This can cause chest infections or aspiration pneumonia, and this can be very serious if it continues to keep happening. So if your child or young person is having a lot of chest infections, this is a sign that they're having difficulties with eating and drinking. If you're at all concerned about your child's eating and drinking, or you spot any of these signs, get in contact with your speech and language therapist, and they'll be able to come and do an assessment of the child's eating and drinking. And if you don't have a speech and language therapist, then maybe speak to your GP, and they should be able to either give you advice or do a referral. If you found this useful, look out for more videos in the future on our YouTube channel.